Hello, I'm Mark from Podiant, and in this video I'm going to show you how to edit a podcast episode using Adobe Audition. So Adobe Audition has existed since the 20th century. It used to be called Cool Edit Pro and it only worked on Windows, and Adobe bought it and a few years later they ported it to the Mac so it works cross-platform. If you are already invested in the Creative Cloud system, it is my 100% cast iron recommendation for your digital audio workstation because it does everything that you need. It's the software that I've used the most in my decades now of working with audio. And so I think we should just get straight into it and let me show you how you can very quickly get a podcast episode edited in Audition. So, to get started, let's open Audition. And we're going to go up to the Multitrack tab here. I'll create a new project. Episode 1. Now, I'm going to set a few things here. Now, the defaults are slightly different, so I want you to just take a quick note of these here. So we want to set the sample rate at 44 100 Hz. We'll set the bit depth to 24. And then we want to set this to mono now. I think it's going to be stereo by default. Most podcasts, you're best sticking with mono. And this is just going to take care of some of the mixing aspects for us. So with that in place, I can press OK. Now I'm doing this on a Mac, and of course you can do this on Windows, and it's the same software that works on both platforms. So I'm going to start by dragging in my intro here, and then my outro over there. Now you'll notice here we've got these PK files. Now I've already run through this process once before so that I can remind myself that I know what I'm doing. And you might notice that when you start dragging files into Audition, these PK files start getting created. Not to worry, that it's not anything you need to worry about. They're not going to take up masses of space on your hard drive. It's just Audition's sort of cache of information about the waveform that you're editing. Now with this one, I'm going to take these two. And on my Mac, I'm holding down the Option key, and on Windows, I believe it is the Alt key. And what that's doing is, if I take my finger off the key, you can see there that it wants to put the audio just on one track. But with the Option key held down, it's going to split that and take the two files that have dragged in and put them on one track each. Now, the great thing about that is I've got a double ender here. I've got two people being interviewed, and I want to make sure that the tracks are in sync. And so that is my interviewer there. So I'm going to pop him there. And then we'll drag our music in. So that is our basic thing. Now, again, I'm just using the Command key, which will be the Control key, I believe, in Windows, and just moving my finger up and down my mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out so I can quickly sort of nip around, and then I can scroll to the left and right here. Now I'm going to take everything that I've imported here apart from the music. Do that. That feels about right. And then first thing I'm going to do is let's label my tracks so I know what everything is. We'll call this intro and outro. This is Peter. This is Amanda. And that's my music. Now, the music, I'm going to set at -3 dB. I'm going to click on this horizontal line here and here. And that's going to create an automation. Now, if I drag down, if I press the Shift key, it will mean that I can drag up and down, and if I accidentally drag left or right, it's not going to change the time of when I've created my... they're called envelopes, these little nodes. But I'm going to drag it down to about there, and that's going to create a fade. Now, we don't need this music here, so I'm going to click the music track, and I'm going to press Command and K. Again, on Windows, that'll be Control and K. Select the right-hand track, delete that. And then I'm going to take this little handle here with that little diagonal square. And as I drag it to the left, you'll see it's creating this line. As I drag that up and down, we can see that it's creating a curvature, which is really nice. You want some sort of algorithm to your fade because it sounds a lot more natural when there's a bit of a sweep. So let's do that. And then I know that there's a bit of a mistake at the end of my audio. So let's get my outro here. Get that aligned. So I'm going to hit Control and K. I'm just dragging from that bottom left handle there. Drag that to the left. There. And we can cut some of this gap out as well again. Command K. Now what I did there is what we call a ripple delete. I pressed Shift and backspace, or Shift and delete, and instead of leaving a gap, by pressing Shift and delete, it cleaned up that gap for me. So it's just a little time saving. Lovely. So that is our editing done. Now, I'm going to go over to our master track. And in fact, let's get rid of some tracks that we don't need. So we'll just remove those empty tracks. And then we keep our master track here. Now I've got the effects rack here. By default, I think that might be what you'll see when you first start Audition. So let's expose the effects rack for the master track. And we'll go to amplitude and compression. And to the multiband compressor. This is super simple, and it's one of the reasons that I love Audition. Now, what I'm doing here is a bit of a blunt tool. There's a lot more finesse that you can apply, but it's a really, really great start. This will keep your volume levels really punchy throughout your audio. So it will boost what needs boosting, and it will sort of dip down what needs dipping, so that your audio doesn't peak and you don't end up with distortion. So that's the multiband broadcast compressor. And then the last thing I'm going to apply, back to amplitude and compression again, is a hard limiter. And I'm going to set that to -3 dB as a rough rule. And that's it. So to export our audio, we go to File. It's a bit of a long process, but it's File, Export, Multi-track Mixdown, and Entire Session. You can see here I've already got MP3 selected, so make sure you've got that. And then go to Change, and by default these will be slightly different. So you want to make sure that Constant is set here for the type, because if you go for variable bitrate, that can mess up some audio players. So it's best to stick with a constant bitrate. And then in our case, we want 64 kilobits per second. So OK to that. So that's it. As I've said in the video, Obviously, it will vary very slightly for Windows, but not by much. We're only talking slightly different key combinations. If you read the guide over at podient.co/learn, you'll see a little pro tip for a bit of productivity hack, if you like, for working with audio a little more quickly. So make sure you check out the article there. And there's loads more information and articles that you'll find at podient.co/learn. As well as access to our 14-day free trial of the Podient podcast hosting service. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.